Thank you so much, everybody. Can everybody hear me? Thank you for joining us. I know there's a lot going on, but as we were drafting the agenda, we wanted to have a little bit about everything for everybody, but we reserved the center stage really for some of the most exciting things that are happening out there. And I cannot think of a more exciting thing that is happening out there. There's the company that Anshu has found called Rhombus. I met Anshu 2+ years ago. He showed me his capability. He did a demo for our team, and he blew me away. So ever since then, we've been really close friends, and I feel like our journey has been continuing together, not just because we're both immigrants, but also because how we both agree that we should win the techno competition with China, and that the private sector can put its weight behind some of the capabilities that we need. And so I wanted to start by asking Anshu, please tell me your story, because I think you have an amazing story. And why did you launch Rhombus?
Ylli, first of all, thank you so much for having me here. And thank you, Michèle. It's such an honor to be with you. Why I started Rhombus? Well, I was well on my path to become an academic in 2010 at Stanford. And I had a moment of realization that I wanted to make an impact that I could see in my lifetime. And that is what led to the creation of Rhombus. I founded the company out of a co-working space, sitting in a kitchen area with unlimited coffee and $30 per month rent, which seemed like a dream at that time. The first 6 years of Rhombus were all about Fukushima Daiichi. I invented a neutron detector out of my apartment. That led to a commercial success in Japan, which ultimately became the capital we needed to then experiment with new ideas. Okay, so what's next for Rhombus? 2016, 17 timeframe. DIU opens an office almost next to ours near NASA. And we became friends over many cups of tea and lots of conversations. And so that, with my core team of some incredible people, we're sitting here, Sarah, Sangram, Sangho, folks who are not here as well. I decided that this is my moment to realize what I came to America for. America for me is that shining light on the hill. It will always be. And I will not stop until I realize my dream or I die trying. So that's what led us to national security, the combination of DIU, and one individual named Sam Iraqi, who I remember all the time, who taught me everything I know today about defense.
Incredible. I mean, also, I know you were at our summit in September, and you did a cool demo. But I'm turning over to Michèle. Like, I'm sure you see a lot of companies. Your experience in DoD, you know what the needs are. You see now what the capabilities are in private sector. Why do you think these technologies are critical for our national security mission?
Yeah. So first of all, congratulations, Ylli. This is an amazing forum. I look at this from the point of view of strategy and U.S. national interest. We are in a period of profound geopolitical shifts, a rising and more aggressive China, a revisionist and hostile Russia, and a period of profound technological disruption. And so what has enabled the United States to have military superiority, to have predominant influence in the world, to be able to lead and shape the environment, that old formula is not going to work for the future. And I think one of our core strengths as a nation is this innovation ecosystem and the ability of us to adopt and integrate the emerging technologies that are going to come out of that ecosystem into the military is what is going to either make the difference to enable us to deter future great power conflict or not. And so what that requires is we have to, as a national security community, embrace disruption. It's very uncomfortable to do, but if we don't, we're not going to be successful in keeping the peace. Companies like Rhombus, the reason we chose to work with Anshu and his team is the eye-watering capabilities they are bringing. They are now, working with almost every COCOM, and they are letting senior decision makers have much better information, earlier indications and warnings to have more decision time, more decision support, to figure out how to deploy the force, employ the force, manage the force, so that we can shore up deterrence now and in the future. And so this is not just about, one company's fate or all of the companies here, their fates. It is literally about whether the United States keeps our edge in the future.
Thank you, Michèle. Speaking about the capability, because I don't want to keep people on the edge, but I want you also to describe a little bit about your capability, because the way I talk about the demo that blew my mind when I saw it was a couple of weeks before the Russian invasion of Ukraine. You did a demonstration showing Russian capabilities, massing their troops, their forces on the Ukrainian border. And one of my teammates, who's a Russian expert and worked with me at the White House, asked you, when do you think the invasion is going to happen? You said in 30 days. You missed it by a day. So can you talk a little bit about how do you do what you do? How do you build the capability? And why you can be so accurate in these kind of things that you're doing?
Yeah, Ylli. So actually, we met 30 days before the invasion, roughly. We had been working, our system had been catching the signals for I want to say 15 months before that. And we were in some under contract with some clients in the US government at that time. And by looking at signals from the open source, unclassified, completely unclassified, commercial and publicly available information across land, sea, air, space, cyber domains, one can get down to what I call the atoms of war, which are people and objects. And by looking at the sort of patterns of behavior and specifically the buying patterns of certain types of people from the Russian side, it became pretty evident that the invasion was imminent. Now, the only question was, from the change in that pattern, how long is it before they actually attack? And by studying those insights coming out of the machine, which is really the power of correlations, frankly, and taking and saying this machine is as unbiased as it can be. It's not completely bias-free, obviously. It is still subject to the assumptions of the models that we ultimately feed. But then, when experts look at those outputs, it's a bit like Garry Kasparov looking at a chessboard and knowing what's going to come. And so we were able to, just through the playbooks of Russia, be able to figure out the number of days to the attack from there. And yeah, we were off by a day.
No, I mean, it's impressive. And for those of you that want to see the demo, talk about the demo, Rhombus has an incredible exhibitor's booth over there. And I'm sure Anshu will be able to walk you through. But getting these capabilities, Ms. Flournoy, as you know, into the hands of the operators. You've written about this. You've talked a lot about this. You had a piece in Foreign Affairs about this. We still have some basic institutional challenges. And I'm sure Anshu has spent nights not sleeping about the contract that might come through, may not come through. So tell us, how are we doing in this space? Are we doing a little bit better?
We are definitely doing better. I think the department has gotten very good at scouting for promising technology, for using the flexible authorities that Congress has provided to prototype that technology, experiment with it, play around with it. Where we're still struggling is then taking those promising prototypes and really scaling them with the speed that is required to be relevant and to have the impact that we seek. And I think I've come to believe that it's not necessarily an authorities problem. It's not even necessarily a money problem. It is the fact that the incentives that govern the acquisition system and the contracting systems of the department are misaligned to disruption and moving agilely with speed and scale. So we have created a very risk-averse culture. No program manager wants to have a Nunn-McCurdy breach. Nobody wants to get off schedule or exceed budget. That is the kiss of death for your promotion prospects in your career. And so we're very risk averse, which means there's a huge disincentive against disruption. We need to create a subcadre of professionals in acquisition and contracting who understand agile development, software-defined technologies, who are trained to be more, to manage risk more effectively, to move with speed and scale, who are rewarded for that. So you start with a little program, you do well, you get a bigger program. Maybe then you get a whole portfolio. And there's a career path for you to specialize in working with emerging tech and do it better and better and better over time. And until we change that incentive structure, I do not believe we're going to change behavior with the kind of scale that's required to get the system to behave differently and fully take advantage of companies like like Rhombus and others.
Anshu, how does it look from your side?
Well, I think the fact that I'm sitting here is evidence that things have changed. It's been a journey, of course, for us. We wouldn't be here without DIU's help. And we wouldn't be here without the contracting support we got from them. They are truly experts at understanding what agility means, what innovation means. And to a large extent are highly risk tolerant to the extent that their funding profiles allow. So I'm very thankful for that. I think that being said, I think we are still an exception. And that is where I think Michèle's point is really valid to me. It would really help to have more such acquisition happening in the entire ecosystem. We became a program of record in the Air Force about 4 years ago. And that to me meant that I could make some bets and I could take some chances. And sure, we didn't succeed in everything we tried, but on the balance, we did very well. So not only does what Michèle said, which is the sort of changing the structure, the incentives help the government side, it also helps the entrepreneurs take those chances. If needed, private capital can step in, although I have views on that. But there's also opportunity here for more such people like me, and there are many more, as you know, Ylli. There are many, many like me who would love to do this, and they need the opportunity.
I think you were also fortunate because on the other side, you had a great leader like General Brown, who really understands the importance of technology, and we were fortunate to have him yesterday at the Ash Carter Exchange, who understands technologies, understands the importance of AI, why we need it for the warfighters. Ms. Flournoy, you were the undersecretary, you were a leader. How do we make this? We have Doug Beck now, tremendous guy at the DIU helm, but how would you change it if you do it today?
Well, I do think that educating our most senior leaders and helping them understand the strategic importance of this transformation that we need to go through is very, very important. I mean, I go back to the era when cybersecurity was sort of a new tool, or cyber tools were relatively new. And I remember sitting in the Situation Room, looking around the table during a cyber discussion and realizing like 8 out of the 10 people at the table have no idea what's being said. And so Jim Miller and I actually launched kind of an education effort to try to help senior leaders get the basics of Cyber 101. No, it's not like nuclear weapons. That frame is not going to help you. You learn some different things about it. So I do think educating our leaders, getting them comfortable not only with the tool, the value of the tools to the defense enterprise, but how some of these companies work. You've got to be able to ensure that we are actually supporting the ecosystem in a way that's going to keep it vibrant and alive. So I do think leader education is critical. I also think there's some systemic things we need to do at the national level, and I know this is not a panel about immigration reform, but given the company on the stage, we have got to at least carve out from issues of border security this issue of continuing to be able to attract the best and brightest from around the world to come to the United States, to invest in our national security, to bring their they're gifts to this country and they're to build businesses here. If you look at Silicon Valley, half the founders are either recent immigrants or first-generation Americans. That is a huge source of strength for us in the competition with China, and we are not fully taking advantage of that.
Absolutely. Just to double down, I mean, we have said as SCSP and before that as NSCI that solving the H-1B visa would be a tremendous step forward. Anshu, let's talk a little bit about risk. We are at AI for national competitiveness, but risk is always a predominant theme in these conversations. Adoption of these technologies by the department, it always is much, much slower because of the role the department has and the mission that it has. How do you view the risk of these technologies for the national security purpose?
For the national security decision-making process?
Yeah, I mean, you written a piece with Stanley McChrystal on the Situation Room, and
Yeah. So the way I see it, so let's break this down a little bit. Okay. If you think of risk as the probability of an event times the impact, right? It depends on what it is that you're trying to do with new technology. What problem are you really trying to solve, right? If you're trying to solve a problem which involves solving that problem will result in decisions that have extremely high cost, let's say in terms of human life or economic cost, you can understand that the complexity of that particular problem set is extremely high. But that's exactly where AI needs to make an impact, right? And if you then look at the other problem sets like counting objects in places, machine learning, identifying planes, trains, automobiles, those kinds of things, those are sort of foundational, and automating some of that with it just totally makes sense. There's not a huge cost associated with that in terms of impact. So how do I view this in terms of decision making? So my sense is everybody across the organization in the DoD, which is highly hierarchical, is looking to apply some form of automation. Today, there's a lot of artificial intelligence involved, but some form of automation so that they can save time and they can apply judgment and their wisdom on top of what the insights are. I think that's needed across the board. Senior leader pull is essential for that. But what bothers me, I'll tell you, is increasingly, as we've gotten involved with many enterprises in the DoD, I find, and maybe it bothers me because I see opportunity here, that the space where you can really build software that matches the complexity of the problems that the decision makers have to solve is so lean. It's so lean because it's really difficult. It's really difficult. Those problems are very hard. And like I said, that's where the opportunity is to make an impact at the national level, at a global level. So we're focused on that and trying to build an ecosystem of providers within the DoD that can actually support everything that's involved leading up to that stage.
Michèle, you've written in Foreign Affairs about the need to balance risk and adoption. The building is always very risk averse, rightfully so. How do you balance that?
Yeah. Well, I think there's a huge number of risks for us not moving fast enough for the adoption. There are also risks if we move so fast that we're not thoughtful about it. And so I actually want to commend the department has a very good framework of responsible AI, transparency, explainability, robust testing and evaluation, et cetera. And, the object, you have to build trust in these systems. Building trust for something that's working back office, using AI for more efficient back office functions is a different level than building trust in something that is going to result or contribute to kinetic action. And so the level of rigor has to depend on the use case and the situation. But I think if the department takes that framework, which was developed by the Defense Innovation Board, adopted by DoD, and really operationalizes that, I think we will be in very good stead. I also think it's a very good foundation to build a set of shared international norms. I know that DoD has been talked to something like 47, 48 countries, gotten them to sign on to the framework to guide for our allies and partners to also share that approach. So I think now it's really a question of setting up, really exercising the governance, setting up the testing and evaluation infrastructure, all of the necessary things to implement the framework, but doing so in a way that doesn't become overly bureaucratic and overly ponderous and slow. And so this is a challenge. This is not something that DoD likes, overly complex and slow. And so it's going to have to resist that temptation in putting this into practice. But very, very important that we do this well to avoid the risks of unintended consequences with very high stakes involved.
Anshu, I mean, open source intelligence is one area that I think the department can benefit. When we did the commission, we categorized like AI, because we had to answer the question, AI for what? For the department. And we came up with 4 categories. The first one is back office responsibilities, easy adoption, low threat, Congress buy-in high. I mean, so the second category were I&W, which is, I think, the area that you are really excelling. The third was decision-making that I think Michèle was talking about. The last one is probably the most sensitive one, lethal autonomous weapon system.
Yeah.
But usually the conversation always jumps on the laws. This is my question to both of you probably. The next 3 to 5 years are going to be really, really challenging. And I think we are seeing the sparks of that security environment deteriorating. What are some of the capabilities that I think you can offer to augment the traditional military capabilities? Obviously, you cannot offer an all full warfare spectrum. There are areas now that innovation is much, much better in private sector. So in the next 3-5 years, in order for us to build deterrence, what do you think in your mind on this category of 4, let's say not laws, we can do much better to be better prepared for the next, 3 to 5, 7 years?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll go first. I'll answer your question in 2 levels.
Right.
So the first is what my view is and what the department needs to do. Right now, if you think broadly define the DoD into its resourcing side and its sort of warfighting side, then what one realizes is that every kill chain for warfighting begins with the money. So how you allocate that money in the right ways, in thoughtful ways, in ways that you can actually predict and understand the consequences of your decisions for a warfighter, it's easier said than done. But we work very hard every single day with the Air Force on that. In fact, the current POM is getting built on our platform. So that's one side where I think it's going to see a tremendous improvement. The system will, as capabilities like ours are brought to bear. The second side to it is on the warfighting side, where I truly believe that having the ability to predict what the adversary is likely to do and intervene in thoughtful ways, far left of the event, is probably fundamental. It's the first step in which AI can help us before these issues become crises. And having the ability to see much deeper into an adversary's behavior and finding those correlations that we may have missed thus far is something where that I think automation, model-based systems, artificial intelligence can collectively help with.
I agree 100%.
Yeah, I would just build on that. I mean, if the name of the game is deterring great power conflict, the earlier indications and warning you can get, having AI help you recognize patterns of behavior that you might not otherwise see, the more time you are giving decision makers to try to, prevent a crisis that's emerging from becoming open warfare. And so it's a really critical thing. I would add to that, the next thing I would say is, decision support in an actual crisis or conflict where, now you're having the pressure of making decisions under enormous time pressure, but with imperfect information. That's always the struggle for the decision maker. This kind of tool can help them have, it's never going to be perfect, but have better information, better decision support to evaluate options in a crisis under pressure. The next level that I look at is resilient C5ISR in a denied environment where the adversary is going to be trying to take down your communications, your ability to see, to target, to respond, to connect with your forces. And I think there are building that network of networks that is truly resilient in an EW environment, in a GPS denied environment. There is a role for AI-enabled systems, kind of using almost like a smart switching and routing system to keep your systems talking to each other and connected, even in that environment, is hugely important. The next level of challenge is human-machine teaming. You've written a lot about this, and it's not taking the human out of the loop, but it's enabling one human to control many unmanned systems to greatly complicate the adversary's planning and operations, and again, hopefully deter action or convince them that they cannot be successful by using force.
No, I 100% agree with you, Michèle. As you know, Anshu, we're 2 minutes close to the end. Next year we're gonna have another Expo. You're gonna be here. You have a big year ahead for Rhombus. Can you preview a little bit of your expectations for the next 12 months and where you're gonna go? So then I can ask you the same question next year.
Yeah.
We sit here.
So there's a conservative view, there's an optimistic view.
Yes, it is.
So the conservative view is we keep doing well on what we're doing, which is keep building on enabling the DoD on the resourcing and warfighting sides, keep growing across all combatant commands, where we are really placed across many services. That's a conservative view. The optimistic view is we've now gone international, and we work in Asian countries quite a bit, and I expect that what Michèle was talking about, I see it as a digital nervous system of predictive intelligence sharing using purely open source, unclassified information so that our allies and partners together with us can actually get better prepared. I also see opportunity for Rhombus. We are opening up our commercial lines now. We started Rhombus Japan. That's one of the big things we did this year. So optimistically, we are getting involved with hedge funds and other financial institutions to help them drive investment decisions through prediction.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a big leap for us.
I could just add, what I'm hearing from allies and partners is both excitement about the transformation they're starting to see, but also nervousness that they're going to be left behind. And I think if we see our allies and partners as a source of tremendous strategic advantage, which they are, and if we envision any future deterrence or warfighting operation as in being in coalition, we have got to crack the code in being able to share that situational awareness, that early indicators and warning with them. And these are the kinds of solutions that I think will make all the difference to really helping us build those effective coalitions in the future.
Before I ask everybody to join me in thanking both Rhombus, Anshu, and Michèle, I want to just preview that after the Expo, SCSP will drop a major report that I think captures everything we discussed today, but also provides a pathway to winning from 2025 to 2030 in this national, economic technology competition. But please, I wish Anshu an incredible year. I wish you back next year. Michèle, thank you so much as always for your insights. Please join me in a round of applause from both of them.
Thank you. Thank you, Michèle.